Hey, what's going on? I'm East Coast Pete. Welcome to my show. I haven't come up with a name for this part. Doing punk bands. So a show without a name probably would fit right in with that kind of an idea. So that's it. No name. Today, Social Distortion. They're an American punk band from Fullerton, California, formed in 1978. This is Orange County, south of LA, and the birthplace of Leo Fender, and therefore the birthplace of the electric guitar. Mike Ness, Johnny Wickerman, Brett Harding, David Hidalgo Jr., and Dave Kalish. Drug addiction almost destroyed them in the mid-80s. Ness is the constant. Give a little volume up. Here, can you hear him a little better now? 2 albums, Mommy's Little Monster and Prison Bound, led to their signing with Epic Records in 1989. The band became famous in 1990 with their self-titled third album. Their well-known hit singles were Ball and Chain, Story of My Life, and a cover of Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire, which, by the way, is a great, great song. Cash was incredible. The Sex Pistols inspired Neff to form a band. He liked the Stones as well. Social Distortion was perhaps named after a distortion pedal, which seemed to add to their early guitar skills, which were not virtuoso. So you add the fuzz box to your guitar and it sort of hides your mistakes. Maybe. There is an attitude in punk music that is, the less experience you have on your instrument, the better you will be playing in a punk band. And this is true sometimes. Bands that we rockers before the mid-70s and attempted to jump on the punk bandwagon often failed to make it in punk, either because they were too good or because they hated the simplistic approach. But the punk movement was all about canceling the pop music of the 60s, especially prog and anything hippie. Some rock bands did survive, but many were eclipsed. The way the Beatles blew out, the 50s leftovers. The Doors survived, being dark. The Doors were okay to the punk generation. And the death of Jim Morrison as a drug casualty only seemed to increase their punk cred. Punks, meanwhile, tried to out each other in not caring about image. Ironic, the corrosion of conformity produced more conformity. Skinheads, hardcore, anarchy, but sometimes punks just stayed punk. There was no fashion. It was DIY before that was a thing. Anybody could be a punk unless you tried to be one. Social Distortion's first gig was at the Cuckoo's Nest nightclub on Placentia Avenue. Bet you there were some jokes about that name for that street. It was in Costa Mesa, California. And this is seen as the beginning of the social punk scene. I said social, I meant to say SoCal in 1979. It's all not far from Newport Beach. A little geography in there too. I like to throw a little geography in when I can. So few people know anything about geography these days. Social Distortion became a favorite of KROQ-FM. DJ Rodney Bingenheimer, who was strongly responsible for the SoCal punk spread in the 80s, but he put Social Distortion song 1945 on his 1981 compilation Rodney on the Rock. They began a tour in North America with Youth Brigade. The trip was chronicled in the punkumentary Another State of Mind from 1984. And Mommy's Little Monster was recorded at the end of the tour. Ness was homeless. He crashed wherever and was exposed to drug abuse. He was soon an addict, with no income from the music as of yet. Bassists and drummers came and went. In 1985, he landed in jail and then in and out of rehab. How do you keep a band together with all that? Answer, you don't. The band reformed in '86 and released the second album, Prison Bound, and that went in 1988. And the new album took on a country western tinge, and this is the beginning of cowpunk, with influence of Johnny Cash and the Stones' honky-tonk style of that time. Honky-tonk women, anyone? Other cowpunkers were X, the Blasters, Meat Puppets, the Beat Farmers, and Rubber Rodeo. Social Distortion wrote and played new music for the next 5 years, but did not record. They decided to only put fan favorites out. That was the plan, and it worked. What they do is write a whole bunch of stuff, play it live, and if their audience responded favorably, they decided that would be good for their records. That's how they did things. And like I said, it worked. Mainstream success began in 1989. Epic funded the third album, which was eponymous. This album has sold more than, I don't know how many, but it's been on not the charts. It's been available for 30 years. Everybody wants to know where all this began. No cred is given to the Ramones or Johnny Rotten. Doesn't seem right. Their fourth album, Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell, went in 1942. And that's all I have on Social Distortion. They look like they're about my age on this show, but I'm sure they're not. Being in a punk band takes something out of you. I'll see you next time on my show with no name.